My name's Wally Kirby. I started in 1984, and when Zenith closed its doors in 2001, I was finally laid off after about a 17-year stint.
My name is Nancy Katowski. I was there about 3.5 years.
My name is John Cummins. I worked there from 79 till about 98. The first time I went, I was 14 years old. My father worked there also.
I was so scared.
It was cavernous.
So big and so confusing, I would get lost.
Easily a city block long.
An amazingly stuffed building.
The place was huge.
That's when I finally got the idea of how immense the plant was, and I was actually awe-stricken.
When you went to work, it was like a city all on its own.
They ran 24 hours a day, so it was never ending. Packing tubes, packing tubes, packing tubes.
The rhythm of the building seemed to be constant, and the people, sometimes people would get a little bit behind. You'd see them speed up.
Go, 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 go.
And have to work faster until they got caught up.
Constant motion.
I was talking with another gentleman, and he turned to me and he said, look at the trucks that pull in and bring the glass in and the trucks that pull out with picture tubes. And just think how many picture tubes they have to sell to keep all these people employed.
Maximum 3 to 3.5 million picture tubes a year. And that was running 3 shifts.
24 hours a day.
24 hours a day.
24 hours a day.
7 days a week. For all but maybe 4 weeks out of the year. And that would be Christmas and New Year's and the 4th of July.
Very loud.
Very, very,
very noisy.
Very loud. There was so much excitement.
For the most part, the noise level was probably real close to any EPA limit. You had to become accustomed to the noises.
Tubes busting, bells ringing.
It's like when you're at home, certain noises just become secondary.
Just used to it.
Every piece of equipment in there had its own personality. They all looked the same. They all looked like as if though they should be the same, but they weren't.
Different, like, when they put the glass on top of the...
Hundreds of machines.
It was momentum, though. It was constant sounds.
And you would know where you were, even if you had your eyes closed, because you would hear those particular noises. It was more or less the heartbeat of a building.
Like, if there was, doors opening, closing, boom, robotic,
You know when something was blowing up.
Oh, boom! It would be so loud. Poof, and half the building would shut down. That would be the sound.
But when they shut down, it was like walking through a ghost town. You could almost hear a pin drop, and it was hard to believe you could go from one extreme to the other.
The conveyor system there was pretty much the lifeline of the process.
13 to 15 miles of conveyors.
Throughout the whole building.
I guess you could basically get on one conveyor and take a ride all the way to the other end of the plant.
But the conveyors went up and down different levels.
They would turn the corner.
The carts turned and
up and down and around in a U shape and come back. And
safety baskets had to be put underneath all of the conveyors because...
I could picture those baskets.
Glass being like glass breaks.
Oh, constantly. Tubes were breaking all different areas of the building.
By the time they were ready to be put into a TV set, they were in the 80 to 85 pound range.
They call it an implosion. Since it's a vacuum inside, it explodes in.
Heat was a vital process to producing a picture tube. Many times the glass level was well over 400 degrees.
And if the ceiling leaked...
There was leaks in the roof.
And just...
If a raindrop...
one drop of water hit that tube.
These tubes would shatter just like glass would normally shatter if it's hot and cold. We've all done that with Pyrex type ware.
Sometimes you'd get a cascading effect. One would explode and it would set the one off next to it and the one down from it. So you'd hear one explosion knowing that moments later you'd hear 2 or 3 more.
And because of that, it would rain glass. Very nice big pieces of glass that can cut you pretty good.
The hazards that I personally faced...
Right, like the asbestos, They told everybody that there was no asbestos in the building.
You know, there were some chemicals that we were using to clean certain things, and then after using them for a year and a half, you were told, well, we can't use that anymore because it's a suspected carcinogen. Well, what about the year and a half that I used it?
It'll kill bacteria in life.
Hydrochloric acid.
You'd see people get cut.
You know what I mean? You knew that there was acid in there.
And I remember getting some on my finger one time and then watching as the skin literally turned white.
Containers, and they'd say danger.
Your skin would be bleached for 1 or 2 days.
There's a couple of horror stories I have. I could have killed that guy, and there was 4 days that I ended up spending at home with eye patches on. I seen a guy take off his index finger, cream and some salve. He wasn't the only guy that lost a finger. Bob's head was caught in the machine, screaming. A steel plate in his head, reconstructing that side of his head. 6-7 times a week, the ambulance would be there from Melrose Park to do something for somebody.
You know, you hear the reports that other countries are being industrialized and their standards of protection aren't as high as ours are or were. And what are those people dealing with today? By the time I left, they were trying to fully automate the plant.
They brought in 10 new robots. Big yellow robots.
You know, that was their way of making the company profitable. Didn't work out that way, though.
Person was way more accurate. And sometimes we'd watch them and we'd just bust tube after tube after tube after tube. It would be, oh, what a waste.
I was out of there before they actually said, well, this place is going to close down as a production plant.
So that was a pretty gruesome day. The people, some were crying, didn't want to leave. I certainly didn't want to leave there.
It was just strange to see someplace that you had spent 20 years just kind of get up and move.
It was easier just to let everybody go.
We're going to take our business elsewhere.
It was pretty overwhelming. All the families.
Grandfathers, sons.
Brothers, the sisters.
Grandsons.
Not only my dad, I had an uncle, I had a couple of cousins.
It was a big-time hurt for these people. It was a big-time hurt for me.
That our manufacturing base, which is what helped bring everybody's standard of living up, was slowly declining.
A little bit of resentment and a little animosity towards... I don't know who to blame here. I don't think it's society per se, or just the growth of technology. I don't know. I have some mixed emotions on that.
Where do we help the next generation come up?
We have grown past being an industrial nation.
Is it going to be strictly just a service industry?
It's hard for me to see that the three-piece suit is doing the same thing. You know, it's not doing the same thing. It isn't the same thing. So our opinions and our values can't be the same thing. They have got to have changed.
We go to the store, we buy it off the shelf, we put it on in our living room, and we watch it. But there was so much more involved. There were so many lives that went through to make that tube.
I look back at some of those days and, think, where would I be today if I were still working there?
Probably the best teamwork type situation that I've ever had to be in. And you knew who you could depend on, and you didn't question them.
I guess what I'd want to say is that a lot of people put a lot of their lives into that building. I mean, the picture that's being drawn in my mind right now is like there's ghosts there. Even though we go and we work someplace and we come home and we live our lives, maybe we leave just a little bit of ourselves everywhere we go, and each job that you go to, it changes you in some way or molds you in some way. I think that's because we do leave a little bit of ourselves in those places.